Hello and welcome to the show that gives you an insight into the most important developments of the day. You're watching The Big Picture. Just months before the general elections in Pakistan, the Supreme Court of Pakistan, in a stunning move, has stripped Yusuf Raza Gilani of his office, throwing the country into a political tailspin and paving the way for a possible round of musical chairs for the top post in Pakistan. This development is the direct fallout of the events of 26th April, when the Supreme Court convicted Gilani on the charge of contempt for refusing to ask Switzerland to reopen a multi-million-dollar graft investigation into incumbent President Asif Ali Zardari. Capping months of legal trench warfare between the government led by the Pakistan's People's Party PPP and the judiciary, Yusuf Raza Gilani was disqualified from being a member of parliament in a short statement read out in a packed courtroom by the Chief Justice Iftikhar Chaudhry. Although the ruling itself is unlikely to bring down the government, it could hasten the date of the next elections unless the Pakistan People's Party and its coalition members can agree on a consensus interim Prime Minister. President Asif Ali Zardari immediately convened emergency talks among top leaders in his main ruling Pakistan's People's Party, PPP, and then summoned heads of coalition parties to the President's house for further talks. Known to be a survivor, Gilani had till now faced down several calls by the opposition to step down as Prime Minister, reiterating at every point that only the Parliament could dismiss him from office. The legal drama that played out is sure to add to political uncertainty at a time when the government can ill afford to be distracted from a number of potential crises, including widespread unrest over electricity shortages and Pakistan's deeply distrustful relationship with the US. Tonight on The Big Picture, we discuss Pakistan's potential political crisis. We will also analyze the fragmented polity and the options that the ruling coalition has to nominate a replacement for Gilani. I'm Athar Khan. And helping me deconstruct Pakistan's predicament will be Ashok Behuria, Senior Fellow from the IDSA. I also welcome back to the program Bharat Bhushan, Senior Journalist, as well as Rajiv, Sikri, former diplomat. I'd like to start the show with Bharat Bhushan, if I could. Bharat, why this sudden announcement? April 26 happened. Gilani was symbolically held in contempt, symbolically punished as well, held in court for about a minute. Then he relatively walked away quite unharmed. The suddenness of this decision has set fingers wagging in Pakistan. We'll discuss why those fingers are wagging, but your first thoughts on this court judgment.
Well, the judiciary is carrying on its relentless warfare against the PPP, not against the executive per se, but against the PPP. For past 2 years, Chief Justice Iftikhar Chaudhry has been trying to get rid of the President and the Prime Minister.
Both.
It's part of that ongoing war. I think where the PPP made a mistake is that they did not appeal the ruling. They should have appealed the ruling and then they could have probably gained more time. Although I don't think the judiciary's attitude towards these two gentlemen and their party would have changed at all. So this tension started the moment Iftikhar Chaudhry came into power and it was reinstated and it will continue till the next election. Whoever is the next Prime Minister can again be held in contempt because that order is to the Prime Minister's office.
And we're assuming that no PPP candidate for Prime Minister will ever reopen investigations into that.
Without doubt. I mean, no PPP Prime Minister can afford to go against the President. He is the Prime Minister at Zardari's pleasure.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense for any PPP Prime Minister to send their President to some magistrate's court in Switzerland. I mean, it sounds very strange that any nation should want to do this. But here is a judiciary that has taken on a political party and is just going on at it.
There is, I think, a window. Let me come to you in a bit. I'll just do a supplementary with Bharat Bhushan. A review petition can be applied for. They have 30 days for it. But are you surprised they haven't at all?
I'm not surprised because they know that whatever they do, that review petition is also not going to go in their favor. So they would have a new Prime Minister, gain some time. And that Prime Minister, by the way, will not be an interim Prime Minister. It will be a full-fledged Prime Minister because Zardari is intent on completing a 5-year term. He will try and see that a new Prime Minister comes, they buy some more time, and then they keep preparing for elections. Nobody wants early elections.
So Zardari definitely doesn't want early elections.
But Zardari may be the only one who may want elections slightly early. But I don't think Nawaz Sharif wants early elections. I don't think Imran Khan wants early elections. Imran Khan least of all, because his party structure is not in place.
Right. Let me come to Ashok Behuria for a second, sir. Now, as per latest reports, Zardari hasn't challenged the verdict and is in fact the de facto person in charge of Pakistan right now. One would think he's quite actually okay with the things that are in Pakistan right now. Would you agree with that? With the status quo right now?
He may not be okay with it because they have stated, the party has stated that they have differences with the court of law, the Supreme Court. But I would say that if you look at Jardari's behavior, he has been the wisest of all. He has been restrained. He has tried to operate within the limits. And he has not tried to take on the Supreme Court. He could have this could have unleashed a political drama, but he gladly accepted the verdict of the court. They even didn't appeal. Aizaz Ehsan says that he had even prepared a 250-page report to appeal the earlier contempt of court decision. Even the PPP didn't accept that. So PPP had its plan B ready. If something is happening after the ruling given by the speaker, then they will have another set of prime ministers, and if the Supreme Court doesn't stop at that and forces them to initiate a case against Switzerland, against him in Switzerland, then also the same drama will continue. But one thing I must tell you, even if they were to go to the Switzerland authority
to ask them to reopen
the investigation, perhaps there is a convention in Switzerland that no case can be initiated against an incumbent head of state.
Right.
So this is basically a political circus that we are witnessing, and it is basically Chief Justice versus Asif Ali Zardari. It's not even Chief Justice versus PPP. It's a game of individuals.
Right, right. Let me come to Rajiv Sikri for a bit. Bharat Bhushan mentioned how no PPP Prime Minister appointed by Zardari would ever dare to cross him. Let me get your opinion on this. Whoever the nominee for the post for Prime Minister is, as we'll see by tomorrow, I think they'll discuss and nominate a Prime Minister. Do you see pressure building on that person as well to reopen those cases? And in case if it has to be someone from the PPP, we understand. But what are your views? Bharat seems to think no PPP President or Prime Minister can actually ever do that. Do you agree with Bharat there?
I agree with him. I think that one of the criteria that Zardari will have for appointing a new Prime Minister is to be absolutely sure that that person is loyal to him and will not create trouble for Zardari. So I don't think that but there will be pressure on the new Prime Minister on the part of the Supreme Court and from the opposition parties, because they will want to create trouble for the PPP. They will want to weaken the PPP. You see, Mr. Gilani had improved the image of the PPP and of himself by taking on the judiciary, by taking on the military. And I think this is one of the reasons why Gilani has chosen not to appeal against this verdict to the Supreme Court is that he cannot have too many fronts open at the same time. The real battles are with the military and with his political opponents. Why does he want to take on the judiciary, which in any case is probably overreaching its powers and will have to settle down? Because the real power balance in Pakistan is the military, the civilian government, as we know, the mullahs, America and so forth. These are the real factors. The judiciary over the last 2 or 3 years has arrogated to himself a lot of powers. So I think that there is going to be a new balance of political power that will settle down in Pakistan over the next year or so after the elections.
Do you think this development has made the judiciary even far more powerful than it actually ever imagined itself to be right now?
Well, whether it is India or Pakistan, whenever the executive is weak and ineffective, the judicial activism comes to the fore and there is a certain amount of judicial overreach. I think this is what is happening in Pakistan, and I think the opinion in Pakistan may not be all in favor of the judiciary, because if you want a democracy in Pakistan, if you want a representative government, then the judiciary has to have certain limits. Whatever be the role that the judiciary may have played in the ouster of Musharraf, I think after a while the judiciary cannot be a politically active player in any system, and that is an interest which both the PPP as well as the opposition parties have.
I saw you jotting down something. Do you have something to add to that? To what
I was really saying that it's Ambassador Sikri used both terms, judicial activism and overreach.
Right.
I think it's more overreach
than
rather
activism.
than activism.
Right.
Activism leading to overreach.
Because overreach in the sense that the Pakistani constitution, after all, gives immunity to the head of the state. Is the Pakistan Supreme Court upholding the constitution of Pakistan by saying that all right, whoever is the president, he has immunity as long as he is the president. Also, it's overreach in the sense that it is not for the Supreme Court to disqualify a member of the National Assembly. That in the Pakistani constitution is a right given to the election commission.
Right.
The right thing to do would have been, if the reference was made to the Supreme Court by PMLN and Tehreek-e-Insaf Party, the reference should have been sent to the election commission, and they should have allowed the election commission to decide whether Mr. Gilani should be disqualified or not. So I think the judgment is wrong on various counts, and that is why I say it's overreach rather than activism.
Quick comment from Ashok, then we go into break.
I think more than exercising power, the judiciary has become more controversial than powerful, and it has allowed itself to be used as a tool of the opposition, especially the Sarifs. Because there are other cases as well, Mehran Get, for example, the case against his own son, but it was not followed with as much rigor. So that shows that judiciary has not been partial here.
Right. A brief point.
I just wanted to say, I think that the decision is probably influenced by the pressure that the Chief Justice found himself under because of the corruption charges against his son.
And
this
that's
has diverted attention.
That's exactly what we're going to discuss immediately after this short break. Don't go anywhere. The interesting points of this big picture coming up after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Picture. Let me come to you, Sikri Saab, first. Let's get to the fingers wagging in Pakistan right now. after April 26th, things were quiet for a bit, for close to 2 months, I think. Then came the allegations against Iftikhar Chaudhry's son Arsalan, bribe allegations, graft allegation, and boom comes the hammer. Now, do you see any weight in these allegations behind saying that, oh, look, things were quiet for 2 months. The moment these allegations surfaced, this is a reaction to those allegations, and they didn't want to give any weight to those. Let me tell you, Arsalan is being accused. Arsalan is the son of Iftikhar Chaudhry. He's been accused of taking amounts close to 342 million from a property tycoon to influence cases in the Supreme Court. Any weight behind those allegations? Bear in mind that most of these allegations are coming from PPP workers and supporters.
No, I think that the timing of the Supreme Court judgment makes one suspect that there is a link. After all, Mr. Gilani was let off very lightly on April 26th.
Very symbolic, that punishment.
Absolutely. And he had reason to believe that this was the end of the matter, that the Supreme Court had made a point, and they would not destabilize the system. They'd thrown the ball into the court of the Speaker of the National Assembly. So why suddenly this has happened, I think has to be connected with the heat that the Chief Justice was feeling. And then there were allegations also about some media people getting involved in giving stories so that the judgment would be influenced in a particular way. I think this is what the PPP is saying, and I think that they have a point. That
it could be a reaction to what?
Because the Chief Justice does not want to sully his reputation, and that was coming out to the fore. So he wanted to nip that in the bud, and now, as you know, the whole focus of attention in Pakistan is on the Prime Minister, the politics. Everyone's forgotten about the Chief Justice's son.
Right. Your thoughts on the same thing? Any weight behind these allegations?
I agree with him, but the only other thing I want to add is perhaps, if you remember, it was a suo moto notice. He took notice suo moto of his son's case as well. But to add to what you said, that the PPP workers were behind it, it was not actually only PPP workers.
There are other
actors behind the scene as well. So in that sense, I wouldn't say that it was only orchestrated by PPP. But yes, Chief Justice believed that it is all occasioned by PPP workers, and especially by Gilani, because Gilani's son was also apprehended in certain cases, the Ephedrine case. In that sense, the Sahabuddin, who is the new nominated Prime Minister, is going to be the Prime Minister of Pakistan, one of the candidates, he has also his name soiled in that case. And people are saying as soon as he becomes Prime Minister, the court may ask the anti-narcotic force to apprehend him. So these are all interesting political drama that is unfolding in Islamabad at the moment.
Right. Bharat, these are serious allegations. 342 million is not a small amount.
Dollars.
Dollars, that too, not even rupees, Pakistani rupees, dollars. Serious allegations against the son of Iftikhar Chaudhry. Do you think this is orchestrated by the Chief Justice at all? Does that make sense to you?
No, orchestrated by PPP, you mean?
The reaction, I mean.
Oh, the reaction. Quite possible, quite possible. But I'm saying that doesn't sort of take away the importance of the charges against the Chief Justice's son. After all, the charge against him of taking $3.6 million US was made not by PPP workers so much, but by Malik Riaz, the head of Behuria town, in court, saying that this guy went to London several times and we paid for his hotel and for all his expenses. Now, Arslan Iftikhar says that he returned this money. That evidence we have not seen as yet. So, it is quite possible that the Chief Justice's son was operating freelance, promising people various kinds of things, and that case will come to haunt Chief Justice, whether he likes it or not. He can get rid of Gilani, he can get rid of the next Prime Minister also, but the point is…
The damage is done.
Damage is done to him and he will be damaged further.
Do you think that, let me just put one point here, do you think there is a possibility that Iftikhar Chaudhary, like you just mentioned, had absolutely no idea what Arslan Chaudhary was doing?
I doubt it very much. If you remember, one of the reasons that Musharraf cited for removing the Chief Justice was that the Chief Justice tried to bend the rules to get his son into the police force.
Yes.
So, he knows what his son is doing. If his son was going to London and had a particular lifestyle, he should have wondered, you know, how does my son get the money and how does he maintain such a lifestyle?
Right.
How come he never questioned that lifestyle?
Right, right.
So, I refuse to believe that a father doesn't know what his son was doing, especially in a society like Pakistan.
Interesting point. Interesting. Yes, you had to say something.
This is exactly what Asma Jahangir and Najam Sethi have been saying, that the Chief Minister should have been investigated into it. And not only that, right from the day he entered into Bolan Medical College till he got into police service and beyond that, all along, there were several concessions given to Chief Justice's son. Why it was given?
Right.
The Chief Justice was not, you know, Dudh ka dhulawa nahi tha. He was not quite, you know, non-corrupt and impartial and whatnot.
Right. Let me come to another issue that we want to discuss. Rajiv Sikri, Makhdoom Shahabuddin is the current textiles minister, and some would say an arch rival of Gilani in a lot of sense. He's being seen as a possible consensus candidate for Prime Minister. There are other names. What do we really know about the man, first of all, apart from him being an arch rival to Gilani and him being Textile Minister? There are other names in the fray as well. Names like Ahmad Mukhtar Bukhari, the Water and Power Minister, Religious Affairs Minister Khurshid Shah. There's National Integration Minister Samina Barki. Also, Hinara Bani is a long shot, the dark horse. Some really think that's just the wild card could be there. Any favorites, so to say? Anyone who has a better shot?
I don't think
than
it matters. What really matters is how loyal that person is to Mr. Zardari, who is going to call the shots. The person in Zardari's judgment who will keep the boat stable for the next 6 months or so. That will be the criteria, because I really don't see any major decisions being taken by the Prime Minister. The economy is in a mess. I don't think any of these worthies have tremendous experience on how to get Pakistan out of the mess. In any case, there are so many other factors at work. The Americans are not giving them money. The Chinese have promised something, but really nothing is forthcoming. The Saudis are not giving anything. The water, power situation in Pakistan is really bad. So these are the real law and order, terrorism. Can the Prime Minister do something about this? I doubt it very much.
So you're saying it doesn't really make a difference who comes as a Prime Minister, it's going to be the same?
I think it's going to be the same.
Do you agree with that, Ashok?
I agree with the main thrust of it, but if you look at the candidates now, look at Sahabuddin. He comes from Jakaria Sufi tradition. You know, he has a stake in Multan. He hails from Rahim Yar Khan, and now there is a discussion about Saraikistan. So I think that makes political sense to have him there in the saddle. But you know, there are cases against him, so that may complicate matters. I don't know. Then the next candidate is Mukhtar Ahmad.
Mukhtar Bukhari,
Ahmad Bukhari. And he is a businessman. He is educated in California, and he also has a CV, you know, which is making him eligible for this post. But there also, you know, perhaps the rumor is Chaudhary Sujat Hussain is not quite okay with that. Of course, today he has come out and said, because both of them are from Gujarat, and in the last election he had defeated Sujat Hussain.
So interstate rivalry, of course, will also play a part.
So one doesn't know how it will pan out, but as Ambassador
Sikri said,
you know, Jardari will pick up somebody who will be most loyal to him. And both of these are very loyal to him.
Right.
Over the years, they have proved their loyalty. So one of them could be could make it at the end, but there could be dark horses.
Bharat, very briefly, at the cost of repeating myself, what now? Zardari has called his coalition partners and he's called the session of parliament tomorrow. We expect an announcement by Friday, that's tomorrow, of the new Prime Minister. He also has the option of calling early election, but you already said that he wouldn't like that. Do you see any chance of early elections in Pakistan?
No, I said that if there is somebody who might want a slightly early election, it's Zardari,
It's Zardari,
PPP,
yeah.
because they stand to do well. But I would like to say why I think Makhdoom Shahabuddin may be chosen over others. He pointed to Saraiki Suba demand. You have a Saraiki speaking man as Prime Minister.
Potential Prime Minister.
Potential Prime Minister. And PPP wants Southern Punjab to become a separate province without any violence. If he is dismissed by this Chief Justice, imagine what it does to the electoral prospects of the PPP in Southern Punjab. Its prospects go up.
Absolutely.
So there is, even in the dismissal of Makhdoom Shahabuddin, there is benefit to be had, electoral benefit to be had.
Right.
So I would say he stands a much better chance.
We'll take another short break right now. We'll come back and discuss a few more issues that I have with me. Don't go anywhere. Keep watching The Big Picture. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Picture. We're still discussing Pakistan's current political predicament. Rajiv, Sikri, even in case early elections do happen, do you see this development helping the PPP there? The party will no doubt portray the case against Mr. Gilani as the latest in a long line of unjust decisions by the courts. And will it help fire up the party base at all? Do you think it'll end up helping PPP to do better in those elections, this development?
I'm not sure that it would help the PPP to have early elections. I have a slightly different view to Bharat. I think that the opposition may want actually early elections because they would like to Imran Khan, for example, feels that there is some momentum
going his way,
going in his favor. You have the Nawaz Sharif who wants to prevent the southern Punjab from breaking off into a separate province. So if the PPP government survives a full 5 years, that will be a huge plus for the PPP when they go to the polls.
So they would have a certain advantage there.
I think that the PPP would probably like to complete the full term.
Right.
Even for the optics, and then it's a talking point. It does not solve the real problems, but it's a talking point for the PPP that, look, we took on the judiciary, we took on the army, we are the first government to complete our session, there's no coup and so on and so forth.
And our Prime Minister has suffered.
Our Prime Minister suffered, so he becomes a bit of a martyr.
Right. Ashok,
and they also have a little time to work on this southern Punjab Saraiki province.
Right. Point taken. Ashok, how do you, since you mentioned...
I have a slightly different argument to make. In fact, at this juncture, if there were to be snap polls, I think it may help PPP in gaining in rural scene and southern Punjab. Because they are
because of the Saraikistan issue.
Yeah. Not only because of the Saraikistan issue, but because the Chief Justice has made a political martyr out of Gilani. And he is now hell bent on making another martyr also in the coming days.
Right.
So in that sense, some sentiments will flow towards PPP. But I'll slightly disagree with Bharat Sahab here. Like if Nawaz Sharif also wants snap polls because he thinks if he's waiting till December, then Imran Khan will eat into his electoral base.
Right.
Because at the moment, Imran Khan's support base lies around the youth, urban youth. He doesn't have that rural support base.
So that's a legitimate worry for him.
Yeah. So in that sense, I think Nawaz Sharif is thinking that perhaps snap polls will be to his advantage. But I would like to state here that in the next elections, we are definitely looking towards a hung assembly, which will empower the army further.
We'll have to wait and see if that happens or not. Bharat Bhushan, let me ask you two quick questions, then I have to wrap the program. Since our guest mentioned the opposition as well, where do you see the opposition in all this? Nawaz Sharif has been quite vocal about saying how Gilani shot himself in the foot and he shouldn't have tarnished his dignity. Imran Khan has been quite cagey and not and hasn't said much. Would this development change the political balance in any way, which way, in Pakistan as far as you're concerned?
Well, I think PPP, if it doesn't gain, it will at least maintain the number of seats it has. It will probably go down slightly. I think Nawaz Sharif would be very lucky if he maintains his present strength. Imran Khan, there is no tsunami, contrary to what people think. 6 months ago, the kind of establishment support he had was withdrawn, and you saw the formation of the Defy Pakistan Council, headed by Maulana Samiul Haq and Hafiz Saeed. So we don't know what that instrument is for. What are these people being retooled for? Is it for the election like Musharraf's Muttahida Majlis-e-Amal, or just a pressure group?
Right.
But this development, lot of people, it gives a lot of propaganda and a lot of wind to the opposition. But Nawaz Sharif will also not want early elections, because if he wants snap polls or forces, suppose some way a snap poll is forced at the federal level, what happens in Punjab, where his minority government survives because the PPP is not bringing a no confidence motion against it? Then there will be an early poll there also. And if there is an early poll there, he is afraid that Imran will take away some of his seats. So, and Imran is not yet ready. His party structure from booth level, election machinery is completely different from a presidential poll. If there is a presidential poll, Imran might win. But in first past the post system, he doesn't have the electoral machinery necessary to do well. So I don't think this gives them any advantage except a propaganda advantage. And electoral advantage, if any, will go to PPP.
PPP, absolutely. On that note, sir, we'll have to end the program. Thank you so much for joining us. Rajiv, Sikri, Ashok, Behuria, as well as Bharat, Bhushan. There you go, Pakistan's current political predicament. India will have to watch and wait what happens really. Any advantage that might go in snap polls or otherwise will perhaps probably go to the PPP. Also, a big question to answer is how will the US figure in all of this? They, of course, want different goals for Pakistan, and they will be watching the situation really carefully. That's all the time we have from the studio this time. Next time, we'll get you another edition of The Big Picture with another eminent panel. Till then, Athar Khan saying goodbye and thank you for watching.